You may not believe it, but SMU might be the key to the ACC being more than just a one-team league with a bunch of other schools.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On SMU. It's a Tuesday edition of the show here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Grayson Singleton. Thanks so much for joining us here today. Comment away, subscribe as well. And coming up on the show today, is there a specific path that Kevin Jennings has to traverse to be the Heisman Trophy winner? And as he enters the season as a dark horse right now. Plus, tomorrow is July 1st, which means this is a critical time for the Protect College Sports Act. So some new nuggets that I kind of unearthed over the last couple of days that I want to share with you at the end of the show. But let's get this thing started with SMU. And I saw an article today on CBS Sports that said 10 guarantees for the college football playoff. And one of those guarantees, as a matter of fact, the second one, was that the ACC was going to be a two-team league in the playoff. And it got me to thinking, was SMU's move to the ACC right on time? Because the ACC has a lot of traditional power teams that have fallen off. Now, like in the midst of Miami's resurrection, it's hard to believe that they were kind of a middling team in recent years up until, let's just call it the last three. Florida State has fallen off. Clemson has seemed like it's fallen off. Louisville's on the come up. But SMU might be the one either this year, next 3 years, 4 years, that keeps the ACC being more than just Miami's team. Because it seems like Miami's ascent back to national prominence is permanent. But who else is there? Like, we don't know about Clemson because Dabo Swinney seems very, very reluctant to get with the times. We don't know about Florida State. They've got a lame duck head coach. They're still trying to scramble around to find money to get him up out of there. We don't know. Louisville seems like it could be a very good program that has a lot of success, but can Jeff Brom elevate that team to more than just being a perpetual, 8-9 win squad? We don't know. What we do know is that in 2 years in the Power Four at the ACC level, SMU has been to the college football playoff, been to the ACC championship game, and was one game away from it a year ago. Is SMU the team that keeps the ACC from just being relevant because of Miami, at least for the near future? We're not talking about long term. We're talking for the near future right now. SMU is very, very critical to the ACC. And in this day and age where we're now, jostling over which conferences have power and which conferences need to be influencing the political landscape to tilt things and yada, 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 yada. You don't want to live in an ACC world where people are like, hey, well, you're just Miami. Well, no. If SMU can do something like go on an 11-win season, maybe even beat Notre Dame, get to the college football playoff, and win a game, look, the ACC may not have a ton of depth. It probably never will have a ton of depth, at least all at the same time. But I'll tell you what, it does a lot better for the conference where they have multiple teams in the playoff. Not just competing for the playoff, not just hovering around the playoff bubble, but actually being in the playoff. And that's why SMU is so critical here. Because if they can continue to maintain their level of play that they've had through the first two seasons, maybe elevate it just a little bit, get one extra win, get back to the conference championship and into the college football playoff, it does our conference a lot of good, especially in the nationwide eye. Then there comes the interesting part. If SMU can get into the college football playoff, Kenton Gibbs brought this up on the ACC Squad Show a few weeks back. But do you know how many SEC teams won a game in the playoff against a non-SEC team? The answer was 0. Now, that doesn't mean SMU is guaranteed to go beat one, but it does say that if they get there, the numbers will show in the 12-team playoff era that there is some funny business that can happen. And in a world where Rhett Lashlee is really, really ardent about promoting the ACC, propping it up along with his school and whatnot, that would be a very resounding statement. It would be a huge resounding statement if SMU could be that second team and do damage in the college football playoff. But if you're going to come into the 2026 season and say, you know what, I think 2 ACC teams are going to be in the playoff. Miami won, and then you can figure out between SMU and Louisville later. It shows a major heightened level of importance that a school like SMU has to the ACC. Because let's be real for a second. And I wasn't covering the team when they made the move. But how many people thought SMU is going to go straight to the ACC and in year one be in the college football playoff? That doesn't happen. That is a very rare set of circumstances that SMU underwent and has underwent, really, in its first 2 seasons as an ACC member school. So when you look at it from that perspective and you look at the numbers that SMU and the Dallas market has drawn to the ACC and helping generate additional revenue, they've already proved their importance. But going forward as well, if you want to be more than a league that just has Miami and everybody else is just kind of there, SMU's got to be the other team that carries that mantle. Oh, and by the way, if you want to have even bigger hopes that SMU gets to the college football playoff, they don't have to play Miami this year. Now, the schedule is not all that impressive. You know, they've got road games at Florida State and at Louisville and Notre Dame, so you're definitely covering your bases there. But the conference schedule, not all that fantastic past the first 3 weeks of the season. So SMU has a slim margin for error. We've talked about this on this show. But I do think they hold a substantial amount of value to the ACC if they're able to be that second team into the college football playoff, and it's not just Miami. Clemson will figure it out at some point, I would think. Florida State will figure it out at some point, I would think. You know, there's going to be about 2 teams here or there that'll come up and have a 9-win season out of nowhere. Like that'll happen. Louisville seems like they're a very stable program. But I think the time is now for SMU to go ahead and say, you know what? There needs to be another ACC team that earns its way into the playoff. Why not it be us? And this year's a good year to put that all together. But it's interesting that you can go find an article on CBS Sports and it says, I'm going to guarantee 2 ACC teams are in the postseason. Miami's obviously going to be one, likely. SMU or Louisville? And right now, I feel better about SMU. Coming up next on Locked On SMU, just getting started here on a Tuesday, by the way, there is a very narrow path to dark horse Kevin Jennings potentially winning the Heisman Trophy. I'll tell you what that is on the other side. Keep it here, Locked On SMU. We'll see you on a Tuesday. But first, got to tell you about our friends at FanDuel. The biggest stage in the world soccer is here, and every match feels like it has the potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, shift momentum, and alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle all the way to the final kick. And now FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked into every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals means more bets, and all you have to do is turn on your token. And how about all the goals that were scored in Germany, Paraguay last night? Well, a lot of them were PK goals, but you get the idea. Germany was able to get the equalizer, look like they're about to win, and then Paraguay goes ahead and holds them off, and they're into the round of 16. And as the games keep going on, matchups you didn't really think you'd really be into, you're going to find yourself into them because of stuff just like that. And now you can benefit from each goal that is scored. From the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now. All right, welcome back to the show, Locked On SMU, here on a Tuesday. Appreciate you guys making us your first listen of the day and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network that is available. I'm Grayson Singleton. Make sure if you're new here, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Would love to have you be a part of our growing family here at Locked On SMU. So make sure you do that as well. Audio listeners, salute to you guys as well. Okay, so let's talk Kevin Jennings and let's talk Heisman. Because, again, scrolling through the internet, and I find an article that says Heisman dark horses. And I knew Kevin Jennings was going to be in this article. I just had to click on it to find out where he was. Now, his odds, I believe, at FanDuel are plus 10,000. So, which puts him squarely in the dark horse conversation. Plus 10,000. But there's an interesting sentence in here that details the very slim path that SMU's quarterback has to go on to win the Heisman Trophy. Here's what it says. Perception is what's holding him back. SMU doesn't receive the same weekly spotlight as programs in the SEC or the Big Ten, and Jennings is often overlooked despite consistently delivering. By the way, he enters this season more than 7,700 passing yards, 55 touchdown passes, and he's been to the college football playoff. There is one conceivable path, I think, for Kevin Jennings to win the Heisman Trophy. There is one. Florida State, Louisville, and Notre Dame, you have to win them all. And he has got to be the reason why. That, to me, is the only path. Because, look, SMU is not going to get the national fanfare that a lot of other schools are going to get, right? Like, even Chris Vizina over at Clemson could reasonably draw more national fanfare than Kevin Jennings does. Like, that's just who Clemson is compared to who SMU is at this particular moment in time. So Kevin Jennings has to do some wild, out-of-the-ordinary stuff. He has got to win those first two ACC games on the road. And even if he does that, all right, cool. I don't know if he still gets the Heisman Trophy if he doesn't beat Notre Dame. And the reason I say that is because he would have to have such an out-of-left-field historic season. Now, maybe he wouldn't have to have 5,400 passing yards and 60 touchdowns like Joe Burrow had from LSU, but I feel like he would have to have something like 4,900 passing yards and 45 touchdowns or something in that neighborhood to really win the Heisman Trophy if he goes through the regular season and does not beat Notre Dame. Because I've said this before, and I'll continue to say this again. Moments matter, and who you have them against matters too. That's just the reality of the situation. It just is. Those moments matter, and you got to make them against quality opponents. And for SMU, what gives Kevin Jennings a boost is that the Mustangs have to go on the road to all three of those games I just mentioned. In Tallahassee, in Louisville, in South Bend. So you mean to tell me that a guy that performs well, like let's just say Kevin in those three games averages 280 passing yards per game. In those three games, he throws 10 touchdowns, 1 pick, and rushes for 2 other touchdowns. On the board, like that's a reasonable stat line if you compile those 3 games and SMU were to win them. That stands out. Oh, and by the way, let's say he carries it into the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown or the game-winning touchdown against Notre Dame. That's a moment right there. But if this dark horse at plus 10,000 named Kevin Jennings is going to be a Heisman Trophy contender, it all starts with beating those 3, and it all starts with him having a signature moment in at least 2 of them. The only other foreseeable path I see is if he wins the ACC championship game, and the voting might be done before then. But if it isn't, if he goes out there and balls out in the ACC championship game, okay, now we really got something, right? The Notre Dame game, I was very pleased to see on the schedule because it gives Kevin Jennings a chance to do this. And you look at it, he is one of the winningest active quarterbacks in all of college football. It's undisputed. That's a fact. That's a win-loss fact. Over the course of his career, he's played very good ball. He has left some to be desired with decision making. He has left some to be desired with sometimes trying to do too much, sometimes with inaccuracies that have led to turnovers. He has been a flawed quarterback. Don't get me wrong. But when you wrap everything up and you summarize the career of Kevin Jennings so far at SMU, the only thing you can say is the dude wins. That is the only thing you can say. He has won 3/4 of his games as a starter in the Power Four. All 2 of his starting seasons have been at the ACC level. Throws way more touchdowns than he does picks, even though he throws a generous amount of the latter. Has incredible athleticism, which gives him the ability to create the moments that I am referring to. He's got the tools to be able to do it. It's not impossible for him to do it. It would be extremely, extremely difficult. It is going to be difficult because if there's an SEC quarterback that is performing at that level, the nod is going to go to said SEC quarterback. Like that's just the reality of the situation. It is going to be hard for somebody not in the SEC or the Big Ten to win the Heisman Trophy for a while because those conferences are so stacked and they're just going to play a brutal schedule. Now, you can argue that, okay, they might beat the hell out of each other and knock all their players out of contention, which, I mean, valid. That's on the board. But for Kevin to do this, he has to make the most of what he's got. And being in the ACC, you're going to get uneven scheduling, meaning one year you might have a harder schedule, and the next year, like this year, you may presumably not have as hard of one, which is going to work against you in the court of public opinion. So you've got to make the most of what you got. You got road games in the first month of the season to Florida State and Louisville, and you've got a road game at the end of the season to a Notre Dame team that you will likely be heavily the underdog. So what are you going to do? You got to take advantage of the cards that you laid, that you draw. You got to. That's the hand you've drawn. You've got to make the most of it. Oh, and by the way, going in and winning the ACC championship game wouldn't be too bad either, as a staple on Kevin Jennings' SMU career. But that, to me, is his path to winning the Heisman Trophy. It's got to run through those 3, and he's got to play exceptionally well because the marquee names and the marquee games are not all that expansive. Like, his chances are not going to be that expansive in games where you're going to have an audience against a team that is going to help you prop up that resume. All right, what do y'all think? Locked on SMU, all of you guys, comment away below. Does Kevin Jennings really have a chance to win the Heisman Trophy, do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear from you guys. Coming up next, one more segment. Tomorrow starts the month of July, which means it's a big month for the Protect College Sports Act, and my thoughts are next. All right, one final time here on Locked On SMU. It is a Tuesday edition of the show. Real quick, want to tell you about the Everydayer Club. Get your daily SMU fix completely ad-free by joining the Everydayer Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now and get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonsmu.supercast.com to claim your free trial. Okay, Grayson Singleton back here with you. So the Protect College Sports Act, it has cleared the Senate Commerce Committee. It's going to go to the Senate floor for a vote. It is going to require bipartisanship. There are, right now, they need 60 votes for it to pass. Republicans have the majority of the Senate right now at 53-47. So it's going to require some bipartisanship. And there's one thing that was interesting as I keep unearthing things about this College Sports Act. They want to get this done really fast because there is a scheduled recess of the Senate that runs through August 10th through September the 11th. They want to get this done before the kickoff of the college football season, which means they got to get it done probably in July. July is about to be a huge, huge month. There are a few congressmen that have said such, that they want this thing done this summer before the kickoff of the season. So it's going to be a fascinating next couple of weeks for the Protect College Sports Act. Now, if you haven't been following this, here we go. 5-year eligibility window beginning at age 19 or high school graduation. You only get one free transfer. That's kind of the one thing I still don't really like about that, and I'm not moving off of that. Agent fees get capped at 5%. That's a really good thing. And it gives athletes a private right of action to sue schools over NIL rights, health and safety standards, and scholarship protections, which is where we get to the SEC and the Big Ten. Because we already know that the amendment to the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961, which would allow the schools to voluntarily pool and jointly negotiate their media rights, like the NFL, is staunchly opposed by the SEC and the Big Ten. And for, you can tell why. Because they think they can make more money on their own because they have the premier college football in the country. But they also don't like that last part, especially the SEC. The SEC has said that it does not like the private right to sue, which is kind of interesting. Now, I haven't dug into the legal jargon as to what would fall under that. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have a law degree, nor did I think I would need one to cover college football. But here we are. If I could make my stance on this for why I want this to pass, I would say it like this. I am in favor of college football doing as much as it can be to mimic the NFL. You probably know where I'm going with this. I don't mind pooling the media rights deals one bit. As a matter of fact, like you hear from a lot of traditional college football fans and college sports fans in general, that why do we need to be like the NFL? Why would you not want to be like the NFL? Especially from a business operation standpoint, why would you not want to be like the NFL? The NFL doesn't need anybody else to solve its problems. The NFL is not a perfect league, but the NFL knows how to handle its issues. The NFL finds, if you find something wrong, we'll figure it out. Now, a lot of it is, dictated by a collective bargaining agreement and whatnot. And I think at some point we're going to get to that in college sports. But if you want an example of an industry in the sports world that makes money, where people, both in the labor sector and the ownership sector, are flourishing, even though the players have gripes, like, field surfaces is the most recent one. Look no further than the NFL. Everybody's getting rich in the NFL. Owners are getting rich. Players are still getting richer. I mean, the quarterback contracts, every time I look up, there's another mediocre quarterback making $50 million. Everybody's getting rich. Everybody's pockets are doing just fine. And the NFL conducts itself orderly, and when there are problems that arise, they have a way to extinguish it. They have processes, they have rules, and they figure it out. Now, again, a lot of that dictated by a CBA, which we do not have yet, and the Protect College Sports Act would not give us that. But if you, especially in the idea of pooling media rights, if you can be like the NFL, be like the NFL from a business standpoint. And and because of the world of college sports, and there's a lot going on here, you can't do everything like it. That is impossible. That's not realistic. But if there's a way to mimic it, do it. As a matter of fact, this is from CBS Sports. In terms of pooling the media rights, the biggest revenue play, I'm quoting here, says an amendment to the Sports Broadcasting Act of 1961 that would allow schools to voluntarily pool and jointly negotiate their media rights similar to the NFL's model. Proponents say that it could generate an additional $4 to $8 billion for college athletics, money backers want directed toward women's and Olympic sports. Was there one word there that I just read that's a bad thing? I mean, I know it takes some of the luster away from the SEC and the Big Ten being able to, leverage the fact that they have the best football to, have their own stuff. It does also make life complicated for those two, especially the SEC, because they're locked into that contract with ESPN. Like, there is reason for why the SEC would not want this outside of, hey, we're just the SEC trying to bully everybody. Like, that is a legitimate business interest. But a lot of what I keep hearing from different spaces when we talk about college sports now with players making money is that, well, what about Olympics and women's sports, right? Like, you're seeing people cut rowing, you're seeing people cut tennis programs and stuff like that. Well, if you can pull the media rights together and raise an additional $4 to $8 billion, which I didn't even know was possible, college sports could make that much more given what they're currently making. Tell me what's a bad thing about this. I mean, I think ultimately this is a power play from people who are dissenters of this. And yes, it would require some sort of ripping things up and renegotiating and whatnot. Like, it would. It would. It's nothing, none of this is simple. But if you're telling me, hey, we can make an additional $4 billion with a B dollars at minimum, and up to double that on estimation, and we can better fund these women's and Olympic sports that are certainly being threatened right now because they don't, generate a whole lot of revenue, if any. I don't see why that's a bad thing. But ultimately, if I ever see in a sentence, this is a rule of mine when it comes to opining on sports. If I ever see in a sentence, such and such and such, like the NFL does it, or like the NFL model, I'm going to err on the side of be like the NFL. Because that league is flourishing. The owners are consistently making more money. The players are consistently making more money. I mean, look, Daniel Jones, by the way, just got in the mid-40s, maybe upwards in his new contract. Daniel Jones, who, by the way, is coming off of a popped Achilles. You can't tell me the NFL is not a good league to follow some of its models when Daniel Jones off of an Achilles is getting that much money. So I got the players getting a bunch of money. I got the owners getting a bunch of money. The TV stuff is doing good. The ratings are still doing good. The Super Bowl is awesome. Why would you not want to be like the NFL? It's an orderly functioning league. That's where I land on that. If I ever see like the NFL or like the NFL's model, it's going to be very, very hard for me. And there's going to be very, very limited circumstances where I look at that and say, nah, that doesn't sound like a good idea. Interesting time. All right, that'll do it for Locked On SMU here today on a Tuesday. Appreciate you guys making us your first listen as always. I'm Grayson Singleton. Make sure you tap in with our Everydayer Club. Get your ad-free shows, members-only Discord access, and more. LockedOnSMU.supercast.com, or the link in the show notes is where you can find it. For your second listen of the day, check out Locked On College Basketball on audio, and on YouTube, you're about to head to our 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. We'll talk to you guys soon. Take it easy, everybody.